I think this past year has really done a lot to change the debate on education reform in general. And most pointedly, I think that we can all look to what happened in February of last year in Wisconsin, when Governor Scott Walker really made it a point to drive through, whoever's booing back there, I like you, who really made it a point to drive through his anti-union legislation. And all of the courage that young people, teachers, workers, both unionized and non-unionized, demonstrated when they took to the Capitol and they occupied the Capitol before Occupy was a word on everyone's lips. Most pointedly, what inspired me about that moment was a sign, an image of a sign that I saw a teacher holding that said, "Your learning conditions are my working conditions." And I think that there is nothing closer to the truth when we talk about education reform. Teachers, paraprofessionals, custodians, all sorts of school support workers. What is in their best interest is also in the best interest of students. Safe classrooms, smaller class sizes, relevant curriculum, supplies. These are things that make our jobs easier, and they're the things that we want for our students.
The reason we put on the movie is because of the movement of charter schools nationally and our concern about where that's going with vouchers in Indiana, from Indiana to Florida to Wisconsin to New York. And so a couple of our young teachers asked me if, could we put this on? And I said, yes, this would be perfect. And we invited everybody from the community, people from parents, kids, students, and we had a decent turnout tonight, I think, a very good turnout in my estimation.
Number one, I wanted to see the film. I also came for the union meeting, which was beforehand, because it's important to me to be part of the union and to pay attention to what's going on and finding out what's going on. And then I realized that they were going to do a community group. So I wanted to find out what other people thought about what was going on in New Haven, how we could all come together and make the system better for our students and for teachers and parents and the community as a whole, basically.
The fact that the banter wasn't the old quiet, let's not say anything. I mean, there was some real good discharges of emotion and passion, and that's why you can tell the people in the audience here care, because you saw that passion there.
I think when we think about the movie Waiting for Superman that came out a few years ago, that was really sort of characterizing the debate on education reform at the time, it's very one-sided, right? We have reformers like Bill and Melinda Gates, Geoffrey Canada, Michelle Rhee, who want us to believe that charter schools and choice are this magic pill to our problems when it comes to education reform. But this is convenient because it allows them to sidestep the question of funding equity. It allows us to not talk about things that actually challenge our communities, things like poverty, things like homelessness, the things that our kids deal with and that we as unionized workforce need to help them deal with as well. I think it's convenient, right, for us to not discuss the fact that Wall Street has had a $7 billion plus bailout, and yet our education budgets are being slashed. And you have places like Detroit and New York where there's 45 students sitting in a classroom. Those sort of facts and statistics can't be left out of a debate or a discussion on school reform. We need to figure out holistically how to have an approach that is actually going to benefit both kids and the folks who staff those buildings.
I really loved the end of this documentary. I think the real reform, all of the things in the real reform that it brought up are things I am a champion of. And I just want to say that I work at one of the interdistrict magnets in New Haven, and I just want to point out that these charter schools that this was talking about, the ones that really took over both the New York City public schools that they're focusing on and our national ed reform, kind of the politics that are happening with, it's kind of like this runaway train of the charter schools. And I actually really appreciate, because that scares me and I don't think it's really controlled and in the right direction and in the best interest of our students in urban public school districts. I wanted to just say that I feel that New Haven has actually come up with, the teachers union and the district working together has come up with kind of like this third compromise interesting option where they're looking at, okay, well, we can come up with kind of this interesting middle ground where we take some of these lessons, we're making smaller schools at interdistrict magnets. We have some schools that, okay, we're going to come in with a outside management program, but we're going to keep our students, we're going to keep our teachers, we're going to be unionized, we're going to report back to the Board of Ed. And I think I at least want to give a little bit of credit to this kind of collaboration.
So do we stand up for our teachers and our kids? I believe we do. Believe that so be it. It's hard at your distance perhaps, not privy to everything that goes on. But that is where we are with school reform. The purpose of this meeting is because some of these folks, there are some groups that said they felt that they weren't being properly represented. And Danny, to his credit, and Tom, they deserve the credit for this. They took the lead on it. Let's get those folks in. Because at some point, when we had our last meeting, we said we really need to have one group. We really shouldn't have a group here with different parent and community groups, and then another group with the city, citywide PTOs and the building PTOs. They should all be together. We shouldn't be separate. And that's what we're trying to do is anyone that feels that they're disenfranchised or just not being heard, that's what we're trying to facilitate last meeting and this meeting, so that at some point we don't have two separate groups.
We mean it when we say we want to reach out to parents and we want to reach out to the community. This is what we're doing. We've been doing it, and we've been trying to have these kind of conversations, and we hope to continue these conversations in the future.
We have to include parents in decision making, and I want to thank Dan Durant for doing this too, because AFT, although I did this, Dan's the author and of beginning this movement. We've met 3 times already with the groups, and we're going to move forward with working groups, hopefully on many different issues, using the parents as our allies and bringing the school community to be a real school community.